Greetings everyone! This is a re-recording of a discussion we had on stream regarding how I made some of the items I'm currently using on my character. As you will see later in the video, some of these items are really insane and really powerful, so I decided to make a helpful guide detailing exactly how I made them, what bases I used, and what crafts I end up using. So without further ado, the first item I want to discuss is this armor piece. As you will notice, this armor piece has many really good and really desirable qualities that make it an insane armor piece to use for any Spectre Summoner Necro. And now, to answer the question that most of you are here for, how did I get this insane item? The first thing I needed to do was find a good armor base that had the prefix that gave me +1 to maximum specters. These are normally found inside delve mines, and people usually dupe them with beasts in order for them to become more plentiful. I bought mine at the beginning of the league for about 5 exalts, but by this point they should be around 2 or 3 to get a good decent base with 6 links and the Spectre mod. The next thing I wanted to identify is what type of mods I wanted on my armor. Now, my character is based on life, so I definitely wanted life, and I also wanted to aim for increased offering effect, which is a hunter mod. The next thing I did in order to correctly do this craft is I went over to a website like Craft of Exile or POE and I started searching for which mods I wanted and how I can best roll them. In this case, I knew that I wanted life, I knew that I wanted to roll a hunter mod, which is gonna be a bit trickier to get, and I also knew that I only had room for 2 more prefixes, seeing as +1 to maximum specters is in itself a prefix. Now, backing up a bit, as I already mentioned, I want to roll +2 offerings, which is a suffix. So I have to ensure that when I slam this item with a hunter exalt, it's going to roll a suffix, and one of my liking. For that to happen, my item needs to have all prefix slots unavailable, which is just a fancy way of saying that it needs to have at least 3 prefixes. That means that any new mods added to the item are automatically going to be suffixes. Now, the way I went about doing this is simple. I basically used augment defense to get a defense modifier that I could later remove since it would be pretty useless for me. And I also added life from the bench since I was actually using the item while simultaneously crafting it. After this process was complete, it was time to hunter exalt the item. Looking back at this chart, we can see that there are only 4 hunter suffixes that can roll by using the exalt on it. Another thing you may notice is that almost all of these suffixes can be added or removed by using the new Harvest League mechanics. Lastly, what you should know is that each one of these suffixes has its own weight, meaning that it's more or less possible to roll depending on how high or low the number is. With all those things in mind, and with an I level 83 base, we can see that in order for us to roll effective offerings, we have about 40% chance. The other 40 being life regen, and finally we have about 10% chance for each of the critical attacks. With this knowledge in mind, it's time to use our hunter exalt. Now in my case, I rolled life regen, which was, as I said, about 40% chance to roll. The next step though is what I did to actually fix the item. What I did was I augmented the item with a new attack modifier using the new Harvest League mechanics. That effectively meant that I could only roll 1 mod, which was attacks have +2 critical strike chance. I did this so that when I later augmented the item with a new influence modifier, I had a much better chance of getting offering effects. If for some reason you miss the 80% chance to get offering effects and instead you get the 20% chance to get spell crit, you can simply remove it by removing caster modifiers from the item. It will always remove the caster critical and you can roll again using the same method I detailed before. If you want to get an item exactly like mine, the first thing you will need to do is remove the attack modifier that you added by using a seedcraft for remove attacks. After that, you can augment chaos to get a chaos res, and you can also remove the defense that we added at the beginning of the video to get a more preferable prefix. In my case, that was physical damage to chaos mitigation, since I actually did make some changes to Kay's Spectre build, which I will be detailing in a later video. But whether you want chaos mitigation or some other stat, that is pretty much the way to do it on this league. Some things are a bit harder to get than others, but for the most part these big armor chests or big things are relatively easy when you break them down into individual parts. Anyway, that's all for today, thanks for watching.